hello, everybody, and welcome to the 15-Minute Book Club. This is the show where we give an author 15 whole minutes to convince you to buy their book. With my good self. Myself, that's terrible. Starting this off in the way we mean to continue. With me, Matt Bone, and of course, as always, with me is author and historian Alex Churchill. Hello, Alex. Who do we have with us this week?
Oh, I'm really excited. Like, if I tell you that I found this person because they wrote a series of crime novels where they managed to shoehorn a baby elephant into the plot, you'll know me and my elephant obsession and my elephant adoptee over in Thailand, you'll know why Vaseem Khan is one of my very, very favourite authors. Hello, Vaseem.
Hi, guys, and a happy new year. I think we're still close enough to the new year for me to say that.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
So, Vaseem, for people that don't know you did the Inspector Chopra books. Then we had you on History Hack because you also did an amazing set of books, which I think you're still writing, about Malabar House, which is set in post-partition India, which are just really interesting to read. But you've gone off on a complete tangent now, haven't you?
I have gone off on a tangent. So I'm going to describe that in a second. But just to say, really looking forward to this. A lovely pre-chat where Matt managed to insult the whole of British architecture because apparently we don't engineer our houses warm enough to his Canadian liking.
I'm now holding up my hot water bottle, dear listener.
Although we did point out that the Indian and the Pakistani are fine and the Canadian has a hot water bottle and you're ashamed to your people. So yes. we did get our own dig in as well.
It's the white guy letting the side down. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we're here to talk about Quantum of Menace, which is my latest book, which is the first in a series featuring Q from the James Bond franchise, and Matt's holding up the very Christmassy looking red and white cover. So this book sees the Q that we all hopefully love from the James Bond films. He's booted out of MI6. It's set in the contemporary era, and he doesn't know what to do with himself. And then he gets a cryptic letter from his childhood friend, a quantum computer scientist, hence the title Quantum of Menace. And Peter has died under mysterious circumstances back in Q's hometown. And so Q decides to go back and reopen the closed police investigation into Peter's death and figure out what's going on. So it's a crime novel, not a spy novel. And it's sort of pitched halfway between Mick Herron's Slow Horses and Thursday Murder Club.
Super. Right. So we're going to hit into the 15 minutes now because we like you. We're going to let you describe it before we start the timer.
Yeah.
And
as we go, the previous guest shaking their fist going, he got extra time.
Yeah,
yes,
he got extra time.
Because baby elephant. So
you do anything with baby elephants, you get an extra minute. So there we go. Plus whatever I do when I forget to look at the timer. Okay. So, and here we go. Your 15 minutes starts now.
Okay.
So you mentioned that your publisher, I can just see the pound signs in their eyes when you pitched that, when you said this is midway between the Thursday Murder Club, which sells a lot of books, and Slow Horses, which must get a fortune in TV rights. Like, your publisher must have loved this idea as soon as they heard it.
Well, to be fair to them, that was more of a sort of a marketing thing. But the idea initially came to me rather than me going out looking for it. So I was approached by the estate of Ian Fleming. They had this idea of a series featuring Q. They didn't quite know what they wanted to do with it. I pitched them some ideas, and this is the one that they decided to go with, where Q is effectively an amateur detective in a small town. So it's sort of small town, cozy-ish crime, although it's a little bit darker than that, as people who've read the book will know.
And what do you have to do to figure out Q? Because he is a vital thread through not all of Bond. He's not in the first few books. He sort of works his way in, but he is sort of in everybody's mind as the gadget guy. How do you flesh him out from the various people? Well, Desmond Llewellyn, who famously played him in the films. How do you make him a standalone character from slight shadows behind the monolith that is Bond?
Well, that was a question that we grappled with when they asked me to do this, because one condition I had for them was that I wouldn't do a caricature. So he wouldn't be some bumbling old professor whose things are constantly exploding in the lab. And what I wanted was a real person, somebody who has worked at MI6 for 3 odd decades, So my Q is age 50, so he's neither Desmond Llewellyn, neither is he Ben Whishaw. He's somewhere in the middle, and he's still active enough and still cognizant of his own abilities and what MI6 stands for in the world to be quite disappointed when he's unceremoniously kicked out by the new M. And so he's a man at sea, and he needs a purpose, and that's what this sort of investigation that he gives himself gives him. It gives him this new purpose. So it wasn't because, as you rightly say, he doesn't appear in the books very much. He turns up in Dr. No as Major Boothroyd, the armorer for MI6, and after that he sort of morphs into the Q that we know from the screen. But Fleming didn't write very much about him, so it gave me a lot of leeway to create my own character.
Can I just say, I have to know if you have a background in the civil service, because there's I worked there for a few years, and you just captured that jaded, I've lost the will to live, screwed over by some mediocre dickhead in management. Like, you've just encapsulated everything that I witnessed at the Home Office. Like, did you have a background in that?
I don't, but what you've just described is the life of most authors.
This is true. No, it's brilliant. So what I love about it, and we'll get to, when we get to the Mr. Gammon question, this will be hilarious because we have the best stinking review ever to throw at you. What I love about this is you've already said this isn't a spy book, this isn't a Bond book, this is a crime novel. And there's a coziness to it, which anyone who's read one of your previous books will know. And I just love trundling through this book, following him around. Like, I think you've just nailed a really sort of everyman character. Did you have to go back with different drafts of the character to the estate of Ian Fleming?
Yeah, very much so. So, firstly, it was thrashing around various ideas, and then Quantum of Menace, the death of a quantum computer scientist, was the one that we decided really fits into, who Q is as a character that we all recognize, this sort of scientist type who creates who works with technology, and this allows us. It's not a technical manual, right? It's a crime novel, but I do get to describe what quantum computers are and how they might change the world, and they will do. It might take a longer horizon than my book posits, but it will happen 10, 20, 30 years. So we could have a lot of fun with that. Yeah.
Cars come into this because it wouldn't be a Bond adjacent novel. And as someone who grew up in Coulston and Purley, Caterham just being over the hill, why does Q have a Caterham?
Well, you've answered the question. He has to have a car, right? But he can't have a Bond car. He can't have a Bentley from the books or the Aston Martin from the film. So I had to give him his own car. And the Caterham, for those who don't know, is a British-made sports car which can be bought off the shelf, but it can also be bought in kit form. So you can build it yourself, which seemed perfect for Q to be able to build his own car. And yeah, it does attract attention. And I guess, all sort of Bond characters are slightly larger than life. And Q is one of those.
Larger than life in a very small car.
One of the things I really loved about it was the notion that one might be able to hit James Bond up on WhatsApp with a query if you needed to know something. Did you have to be, again, were you mindful about how much of Bond was adjacent to this book? Were you trying to keep him out of it? Did you want to float him into the plot line as well? And again, was that something where you had limitations on it? Were you very much like not allowed to write your own Bond?
No, that was another condition. Well, not really a condition. I made a humble request. I said I would love to be able to include James Bond making a cameo. I thought they would say no, but they were wonderful. They've been wonderful to work with, both the Ian Fleming's family and the publishing arm of the Ian Fleming estate. And they said, no, go for it. And yes, of course, you have to be aware of the millions of Bond fans around the world. And so you want to make sure there's enough Easter eggs and enough reference to Q and Bond's time together. And the way that I've drawn them. So Commander James Bond does come into the book for a couple of chapters in the second half for a meaningful appearance. But it's more what we get a sense of is their relationship over 3 decades. So it's set in a contemporary world, and they've been battling contemporary threats together. And Q is a bit of a curmudgeon at MI6, at Q branch. He doesn't have many friends. And he can't really come out and say that Bond is his friend either, because that's not the kind of relationship they have. But what I do try and create is a sense of poignancy about the fact that now that he's out of MI6 and reflecting on this relationship, Bond is the only person who'll talk to him anymore. So in essence, he does recognize that there is this friendship that's slightly unspoken between these two awkward but very committed men.
There's another vital character as well. This isn't really a spoiler, but we're going to mention him, which is the friend that Q does make, who arrives from his horrible neighbor, doesn't he? Because you have to have an animal in your books, don't you?
Well, this type of crime novel, especially when it's set in a small town, so the town is called Wixton-on-Water, it's a made-up town, but it's very much the kind of medieval market town that England does so well. Just a few thousand people. It's now changing because of people coming into the village and all sorts of other reasons. And Q's not been back for 3 decades. And we learn why as we move through the book. He's been estranged from his father, who makes an appearance as an old Roman historian. And so there's sort of history there that Q has stayed away from. But when he arrives, he rents a house and his next door neighbor has a dog. And his next door neighbor is a mean old bastard. And he tends to call his dog the same thing. Calls him bastard. And that's all Q hears him calling. And then this old man drops dead. Next thing Q knows the dog is on his doorstep. And we get
I
an
love
insight.
that the dog kind of edges its way into his house, doesn't it? First of all, it just sits there waiting to be fed. And then it's kind of like, oh, well, I suppose you live here now.
Well, Q discovers that the dog is clinically depressed, which I didn't even know was a real thing until apparently it's absolutely real. Dogs can get depressed. They can be diagnosed as such, and then you can get someone to help them work through it. And Q finds himself, saddled with this dog, but we get an insight into his character by the simple fact that he decides not to turn the dog away, and he's never really had a pet before. He doesn't know what to do with it, but he takes it in.
And of course, it couldn't have been a cat because the cat works for the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Nice Bond Easter egg there. Yeah. Got an image of the pair of you now sitting there with your white cats on your laps.
I'm surprised there hasn't been a cat make an appearance yet, Alex. Where are they?
Reggie's surgically attached to the radiator, and Bertie's here. He's decided not to grace you with his visual presence today.
Is Reggie your cat?
They're both mine. Yeah. So Reggie. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Reggie had a moment a couple of weeks ago, didn't he, and sat in on the entire scene.
They regularly make an appearance. But one of the questions I was going to ask is, you bring quite a few threads in. You've got the quantum computing side, but you're also working in things like county lines and things. You're really delving into contemporary issues from both the tech side, but also from the crime side, which sort of bubbles under in the novel. How do you start melding these sorts of things? Stop the book from going high-tech crime thriller versus actual sort of day-to-day crime that's reaching out into the shires?
Yeah, it's a tricky line to tread, but I think we were very clear from the beginning that we want this to be the kind of local crime mystery that, say, someone like Anne Cleeves does so well with her Shetland or Vera novels. So we needed that local flavor, but at the same time, Q is who he is. He's for 3 decades, he's worked at a global level, dealing with global level threats together with Bond and the rest of MI6. So we needed to build some of that background in. And I think with a mystery like this, you've got to have lots of red herrings and lots of different places where the reader can at any point say, oh, I think I know who the murderer is. It's to do with this. It's to do with that. And then towards the end, you put in some twists and pull the rug out from under their feet. And then they think, oh, damn it. He gave me enough clues, but I couldn't work it out.
I think one of the things it really benefits from is the fact that there are going to be more. This isn't, well, write one and see how it goes. How much have you woven in for people that is left for you to pick up in future books?
Well, with this one, we had to do a lot of scene setting, right? We had to just get them used to the idea of Q, who this Q is, the fact that he's booted out of MI6, the fact that these are sort of cozy-ish but slightly darker than that, crime novel set in a small town. Now that that has all been done, all that groundwork has been laid. So the next book in the series, which is, I think if you buy the hardback, you get the first chapter of The Man with the Golden Compass at the end of it, where Q is taken on as a civilian consultant by the local police force to look into the gruesome murder of a tech millionaire.
So we've got a minute or so before we hit the buzzer for the final question. But let's just talk kebab shops.
And delivery.
How much research went into just guessing that kebab shop that features so heavily in this book? And at the beginning of the next one, how much research did you put into that, Baz?
Yeah, so that's based on the kebab shop at the end of my road. I mean, the one in the book is called Empire of Kebab. And look, a lot of the things that people will see in this book, because it's set in contemporary time, are to do with contemporary life and just the small observations. I mean, we were talking about delivery drivers and how they drive us nuts.
For people that don't know, like, you put one in there and there is more to them. But I just assumed they were just a dick because they were like every delivery driver I've ever met.
I get these delivery drivers. I was telling you, they come and they knock on my door and then they hold up this package aggressively and say, password, no password, no food, password. And, I don't know the password because my wife knows it and I have to shout out for the password. It's an ordeal.
But also there's no cognitive thinking going on there, because if you don't give me the bag, then you're saddled with a bag of food that you shouldn't have. Like, just give me the bag and go, well, you're like, first world problems.
Very much so. Okay. So what we'll do is we've got a minute 45. So what we'll say is we'll do the buzzer and we'll give
It's going to take me a while to read it out.
Yeah,
so
go for it.
We'll get there, right. Okay, we don't need to imagine a Mr. Gallon for this because there is one. I guarantee this is a man. This is a review, and you can just tell, you'll hear straight away, first of all, there's a ridiculous analogy that doesn't even make sense, but also the point of the book has sailed over this person's head and splattered the wall behind them, hasn't it? So he says, bloated and flabby like a badly cooked chip, Ian Fleming's James Bond novels were short, pithy and fast-paced. Unlike this word salad of a novel, there are some interesting ideas here, potential gold, under the dross and verdigris that obscure this novel. A good author and editor, I sense they mean themselves, a good author and editor could have made this into a passable story. Sadly, neither seems to have been within 100 miles of this mess. Would you like a right of reply to that glorious review?
First of all, when I read it, I wanted to stand up and applaud because I will utterly and always defend the right of anyone to lay into any author, including myself. But also, I was very touched by the effort that had gone into this. An analogy, a proper analogy. I mean, it might not make sense, but at least he'd used one.
How are they cooking? What are they doing with chips to make them bloated and flap? You just fry it, you idiot.
And then the use of the word verdigris. I mean, I thought to myself, yes, you deserve your moment in the sun, which is why I picked it for this rebuttal. I'm not actually making much of a rebuttal, am I? Just to say that there are far better reviews. Yeah, there are far better reviews, guys.
I don't think you need to. I think if this person had been paying attention, at no point did it say it was like a spin-off and you were getting a spy novel, did they?
They didn't, but time is up.
He's playing by the rules. Good man.
I know. So we're going to have the most immense time on the Patreon extra time because we're definitely going to get more into the whole how you liaised with the family and created the character and what's coming going forward as well. So anybody who's a Bond fan, make sure that you're a Patreon person so that you can hear the rest. But Vaseem, would you like one more time to tell everybody what the book is called?
It's called Quantum of Menace, and it's the first in a series of crime novels featuring Q from the James Bond franchise.
Crime novels, not spy novels.
And we just have to get this on record. Do we get the next one early? Because I really want to know what happens.
So excited already.
It comes out in October again, I think. October of this year. Yeah.
Oh, super.
By all means, if you'd like a copy, just let drop me a line and I'll put you on the list with the rest of the...
You're the worst.
Fantastic.
You're the worst author I know for breadcrumbing what you can have, but not yet. Like, because yours is series, you already know like a year in advance the title and the cover, and you just can't have it yet, and it's painful. But I forgive you.
There we go. Now that we got that in the main one, we can skip to the extra time and do that. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Like I said, if you want to stick around with us, join us on Patreon. And if you are on Patreon, we'll see you in a minute. Bye.
Bye.